6 p.m. on Tuesday, August 17th. As we have experienced over the past couple of years, a lot can change in a very short period of time. We will continue to monitor the available information from all of our regulatory agencies and adjust our plan as necessary. If there are any modifications to our plan beyond what is discussed this evening, we will make sure to provide that information to our parents and guardians as quickly as possible. Our full reopening plan is posted on the district's website, and we are in the process of drafting a condensed version that's easy and an easy to read guide that will be published in the very near future. So throughout the summer, school districts in New York State anxiously waited for the promised reopening guidelines from the New York State Department of Health. As you're aware, earlier this month, the State Department of Health provided notification that they would not be providing any specific guidance for school districts. Unfortunately, this left school district and our local county departments of health out on an island to develop a safe reopening plan that was based on the recommendations from the CDC. Throughout the summer, the Washington County school districts have been meeting to develop contingency plans just in case the State Department of Health did not provide specific guidelines. As part of these conversations, we included the Washington County Department of Health and the county leadership and developed a plan based on the recommendations from the Center for Disease Control, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the New York State Department of Health, which did recommend the CDC guidelines, the Washington County Department of Health, which also recommended the CDC guidance, Needham Risk Management, which is the district's school safety and risk specialist, our school physician, the state education department, and our legal advisors. I have received the question. These are only recommendations. The CDC only recommended. The New York State Department of Health only recommended. Can't the school district make alternate arrangements and do what they want? Technically, the answer would be yes. However, it's very, very important to understand that the district is liable for all of our actions, and in every situation, we need to be able to defend our decisions. Our primary responsibility is to ensure the safety of everyone who enters our building. And whenever health and medical advisors offer us guidance, and all of that guidance aligns together, the district is in no position to disregard their guidance. So although these are recommendations, in the eyes of the district, these are mandates. In developing our plan, we maintained three priorities. First, returning our students to 100% in-person instruction. Two, safely maintaining an in-person learning environment for students, faculty, and staff. And three, preserving our co-curricular, extracurricular, and interscholastic athletics for our students. Our reopening plan follows our health advisors' recommendations and allows for the district to meet our goals. With a return to full person instruction, the district will not be offering a voluntary remote learning option. This practice is common throughout all of the Washington County school districts, the Warren, Saratoga, Washington, Hamilton, Essex County BOCES, and most of New York State. Students learn better and are much more successful when they are receiving instruction within the school building. If there's a class or grade-wide quarantine that's mandated by the Department of Health, the district will look to offer remote instruction for those impacted, but pending that, all students are expected to attend in-person instruction on a daily basis. In a situation where a student is absent for an extended period of time due to illness, including a quarantine, we will look to provide academic tutoring services until the student can return to school. We will not be looking to provide synchronous remote instruction. However, this would only be available for a long-term absence that's required by the Department of Health or a medical doctor. Our reopening plan actually begins before students enter the building or step on a bus. Although this is not required, the district is continuing with our daily health screening process through the Raptor system. Parents and guardians will receive a daily email that asks them a series of COVID-related questions regarding their child. The completion of this task is not mandatory, but is an additional safety measure and an added layer of protection for the district to ensure the health and safety of everyone in the building. Before entering the building, everyone will have their temperature taken, and then if an individual has a temperature over 100 degrees, they will not be eligible to enter. Again, this process is not required, but is another layer of protection for our students. This process will be done through the same hand scanners that the district utilized last year, and this process holds true for any guests or visitors into the district. This year, there are no additional limits on rider capacities for our buses. Parents and guardians are still encouraged to drive their students to school, which will help reduce capacity on our buses, but we are able to fill our buses to their stated capacity. Siblings and those students who reside in the same household will be seated together, and while on the bus, everyone will be required to wear a face covering or a mask, and windows will be open to increase airflow to the greatest extent possible. Those older students who possess a valid driver's license are also encouraged to drive themselves to school. By parents and guardians driving their children to school, and by having our older students drive themselves, we can reduce capacity on the bus and encourage greater social distancing. The daily hours of the district will return to our normal hours, 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., with a period of after-school assistance available on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays until 3:10 p.m. On Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the district will continue to offer late buses to transport students home. And this year, we are implementing a fourth late bus to try and reduce capacity at the end of the day. This year, we are adjusting our student drop-off procedures. Parents and guardians can begin dropping off their students at the school at 7:45 a.m. We will open the bus circle from 7:45 a.m. to 8 a.m. for our parents to drop off their children. Once inside, those students will then transition to the cafeteria and wait until 8 a.m. At 8 a.m., those students will then transition to their homeroom classes. At 8 a.m., we will close off the bus circle for parents and guardian vehicles, and our buses will begin to arrive and drop off students. No cars will be allowed in the bus circle between 8 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. Parents can continue to drop off their students during this time, but they will have to do so at the parent drop-off area outside the middle school, high school. Our morning UPK friends can begin arriving at 8:15, and drop-off will be in the bus circle. At the end of the day, elementary school students will dismiss at 2:25 for those students who are riding the bus. Elementary students who are parent pickup will transition to the cafeteria. Their parents and guardians will pull into the bus circle after our buses depart at 2:35 for parent pickup. This is a new procedure for our dismissal. In the past, parents and guardians have picked up their elementary students prior to or during bus dismissal. This year, we are changing that to try and reduce traffic. Elementary students who ride the bus will be dismissed first. Elementary parent pickup will be after the buses depart at 2:35. Parents and guardians can pull into the bus circle at 2:35 to pick up their children prior to the arrival of our late buses. Once entering the building, everyone must wear a face covering. The guidance from the CDC has been very clear that universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors, regardless of their vaccination status, is a major component of school reopening. While indoors, masks are required for all personnel, regardless of social distancing. As we did last year, frequent mask breaks will be encouraged, as well as outdoor learning activities. We do have a small supply of tanager masks remaining from last year, and we have placed an order for additional masks that we're hoped to receive prior to the start of the school year. Outside, masks are not required, and there is no social distancing requirement. Outside equals no masks. As a result of that, we are encouraging outdoor learning activities and other outdoor events that allow for students to remove their masks. Throughout the building, we will be doing our best to adhere to the social distancing protocols. The CDC has redefined social distancing to 3 feet, and this will be the minimum standard for separation in the district. Within the classrooms, we have reconfigured desks and removed all excess furniture to create greater distance. Desks will be spaced by a minimum of 3 feet, but if there's room for additional spacing, we will separate the desks at a greater distance. In the elementary, classroom rugs have been removed. In all of our classrooms, we will be encouraging the windows to be open to the greatest extent possible, as well as classroom doors to be opened to help increase ventilation and airflow. We have kept the floor decals in the hallways indicating 6 feet of separation, and our stairwells will remain one-way areas to avoid cross traffic. Students will not change for PE classes, but we will open the locker rooms at the end of the day for our interscholastic athletic students. Breakfast will still be a grab and go with the same locations as last year. Elementary students can retrieve their breakfast in the elementary hallway, and our middle school, high school students can receive their breakfast from the cafeteria. For lunch, students will go through the lunch line this year. Elementary students will be brought to the line by their teachers and then transition to their seating location. Middle school, high school students will report to their eating location first and then be called up to the lunch line to try and reduce capacity in the line. Lunch will be primarily eaten in the cafeteria with overflow into the gym. We do have good news for the 21-22 school year. This year, the district did qualify as a community eligibility provision school, and all student meals, breakfast and lunch, are free for all students regardless of their free or reduced lunch verification. Students will have access to purchase a la carte items, but these items are not included in the free meal provision, and students will need to pay for those items. Part of our reopening plan requires a focus on health and hygiene, and this includes the daily health screenings that we previously discussed, working with the Department of Health on contact tracing, developing a cleaning and disinfecting schedule for the commonly touched items, limiting the sharing of materials, and posting age-appropriate signage around the building. As was done last year, our classroom teachers will also develop a regular hand washing schedule. It's also important to note that the Department of Health is the lead agency for all health-related concerns. The district will not be making health-related decisions. We are leaving that to the medical experts through the Department of Health. As a reminder, if your child is not feeling well, please do not send them to school that day. If your child is displaying symptoms while at school, we will continue to follow the procedures that were in place last year, which includes locating the student in a specific classroom and then referring the student to their primary care physician for testing or an alternate medical diagnosis. If your child has a fever, they must be 24 hours fever-free without medication before returning to school. If an individual tests positive for COVID, the Department of Health will investigate, and the district will work with them on the contact tracing process. If there is exposure at school, we have been told that the county will be using a 6-foot contact area. Anyone outside of a 6-foot area will not be required to quarantine. And again, I want to preface this, that this information is correct as of 6:14 p.m. on Tuesday, August 17th. This could change, and the rules for quarantine could change between now and September 8th or anytime during the school year. If that information changes, we will make sure to provide updates to our parents and guardians. Fully vaccinated individuals will not be required to quarantine, pending that they are asymptomatic, irregardless of their relation to the COVID positive individual. Unvaccinated individuals within a 3-foot space of the COVID positive individual may be required to quarantine. This quarantine determination will be based on a number of factors, including whether or not the students were wearing masks, whether there was airflow, if they were inside or outside, and what activity was taking place. If unvaccinated but masked, we have been told by the county that if both parties are masked, the likelihood of a quarantine is very small. At this time, we are not aware of any quarantine rules related to travel. However, if you are planning to travel during the school year, I would encourage you to contact the Department of Health to see if there are any changes in this protocol before you make your arrangements. The district will be limiting use of our indoor areas for outside groups. At this time, we will allow small meetings like our PTA or our booster club to meet inside the building so long as they are following the district's reopening plan. Large gatherings indoors by the community are prohibited. Outdoor use at this time is not limited. This means that our youth commission activities can continue as normal and our fields are open for recreation. To the greatest extent possible, we will be limiting visitors into the district and trying to conduct meetings as virtually as possible. Social interaction is vitally important for our students. And even though we will continue to practice social distancing, we will offer recess and other opportunities for our students to interact with each other. Outdoor activities will be encouraged and the playground can be used throughout the day. We will be offering extracurricular activities, including interscholastic athletics, co-curricular, and all of our extracurricular clubs and organizations. As I noted earlier, our traditional 10th period after school session will be offered again on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we encourage all of our students to take advantage of this opportunity. The district did hold a parent informational meeting for all of our fall sports participants last week. If you have a student participating in modified, JV, or varsity soccer, volleyball, golf, or cross country, I would encourage you to visit our YouTube page to view the presentation or to contact Coach Capone or Mrs. Dupuy with any questions that you have. As of today, there is no mandate for testing or for vaccination. Washington County Department of Health did receive federal monies for testing, whether that's screening or symptomatic testing, but we do not have any details on what their plan to implement this process would be. When that information is discussed with the districts, we will make sure to provide that to our parents and guardians. Vaccinations are not currently required for faculty, staff, or students. However, those eligible to be vaccinated are certainly encouraged to do so by the Department of Health. Vaccinations are the only way to ensure that your child will not be quarantined by an exposure at school. We are working with the county on hosting a clinic for anybody who is eligible but has had trouble locating a vaccination site. Once this clinic is confirmed, we will provide the information to all of our families. Some additional items of note: the district will be implementing modified safety drills, our fire drills, and our lockdown drills, just as we did last year to maintain social distancing. All students in grades 6 through 12 will be issued a Chromebook at the start of the school year. The district will be looking to bring substitute teachers into the building, and our teachers will not be teaching virtually if they are absent. We are allowing field trips, which will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and we are continuing to follow our routine schedule for cleaning and disinfecting that was implemented last year. If the district is forced to go fully remote, we will continue to provide educational services. Each student would receive a Chromebook, and students in the middle school, high school will continue to follow their normal schedule just as they did last year on their remote days. For our elementary students, depending on the length of the closure, we will work to provide a schedule of when students are expected to log on and participate. In the event that we are forced to go remote, we would look to provide Wi-Fi devices to our families that do not have a strong internet connection so that they can continue to participate. Lastly, throughout the summer, the district has been working really hard preparing for our reopening. As part of this process, we've purchased items, developed policies and procedures, and we're continuing to work to ensure that everything is in place and within the guidelines provided by the Department of Health. A great deal of work has gone into determining the logistics of our daily operations, and I would like to thank our partners at the Washington County Department of Health for all of their support. At this point in the presentation, I would open the floor for any questions that anyone has. Please feel free to type your question in the chat and I can monitor that, or to unmute your microphone and ask the question. And I appreciate your support this far in the presentation.
Has there been any talk about what snow days will look like?
At this point, I am anticipating continuing with our tradition of snow days. That if the weather does not allow for a safe operation, we will have our normal snow days. We would not transition to a virtual day on those days. So we had a question: can students be picked up and dropped off by other than their homes on the bus? Yes. What we would ask is if your students need to be picked up or dropped off in an alternate location, that you contact our main office, either the high school office or the elementary office, depending on your child's age, and let us know where they need to be picked up and dropped off, and then we will make the necessary adjustments in our transportation roster. If your student has a bus change during the course of the day, please contact us as early in the day as possible to make that change. A lot of times when we get calls at the end of the day, it's very hard to ensure that we're able to coordinate that transition. So the earlier you can call us for a bus change, the better. So the question, will the kids be able to remove their masks once they're seated? Unfortunately, no. At this point, all of the recommendations from the CDC and the Department of Health have said that once they're in the building, masks have to remain on. We certainly will encourage frequent mask breaks, drink breaks, snack breaks, and go outside to limit the amount of time that the students have to wear their masks. But even though they're seated and even though they're at a socially distanced space, masks still have to remain on. And again, I want to preface that too. That's a great question. That's as of today. As more guidance comes out, as we progress through the school year, we will continue to monitor the situation. And if we are able to relax those guidelines based on the recommendations from our medical advisors, we absolutely will do so. So if my kids who I drop off need a ride to their babysitters, yes. If you drop your children off, but then they need to ride the bus to the babysitters, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you contact the office to let us know so that we can make sure that we have them on the right bus. So when picking up students, must we wait around the circle or can we park in? You can absolutely, if you're picking up your elementary students, you can park in the parking lot and then walk down the bus circle. Absolutely. We're just not going to allow, you'd have to just wait for the buses to depart. Once the buses depart in the afternoon, feel free to drive into the bus circle or to park and then walk into the bus circle and pick them up. Absolutely. So the question is about hygiene, if they can't be to change after gym. We're working on that. As of right now, we're not changing for PE because we're trying to reduce capacity in those tiny locker rooms. So once we get going during the course of the school year, if we're finding that that's something that we can't accommodate, we will start to open up the locker room. So if a student was dropped off and picked up last year, can they ride the bus this year? Yes, they can. Just because you were picked up and dropped off last year does not preclude you from riding on the bus this year. If you have a concern that you want to just double check, feel free to contact the bus garage or the district, and we'll make sure that you're on the roster. You should start to receive letters from the bus garage mid to late next week with estimated pickup and drop off times for your student. If you don't receive that, please contact the district and let us know. But that should probably be towards the end of next week. I appreciate all the questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat or unmute yourself, and I'll do my best I can to answer them for you. So what accommodations are being made for kids who have medical effects from the mask, like nosebleeds and headaches? If a student has a medical note from a doctor, we can make accommodations, whether that requires like a face shield, which we've had, or other accommodations, but we would need medical documentation from a physician that states the reason why they would need an alternate
Yeah,
situation.
this is Mrs. Arlen. For the mask exemptions or exceptions for students medically, last year we were required to have them approved through Dr. Solomon, and it had to be a legitimate thing. For example, just saying that someone has asthma, is not necessarily a reason for not wearing a mask. If students are getting nosebleeds or headaches at school, certainly I would want them to let their teacher know so that they can come and see me and I can evaluate them and give them a proper mask break if that's what they need, where they're distanced more than 6 feet from other people. Additionally, if you have a student that has chronic headaches with or without masks, I encourage you to get a headache plan from your student's physician so that we can have a treatment plan in place if your student does get frequent headaches. Same thing with asthma. If they have asthma, having an asthma plan, will keep them from being sent home with asthma symptoms if that is what they have. If they respond to their usual treatment, they can stay in school.
Thank you, Nurse Arlen. I think her answer was a lot better than mine on that. So again, please feel free if you have any questions to either unmute yourself or type them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer the questions for you. As I've said a couple times during this presentation, this information is valid as of now it's 6:28 p.m. on Tuesday, August 17th. As potentially more information comes from the state, we will adjust or modify our plan as necessary and provide all relevant updates to our families through robocalls, through messages on our Facebook page and the school website, letters and or videos from me. So we'll try to hit a number of different mediums to provide this information to you. If you don't have any further questions, I appreciate your time this evening. I appreciate your patience as we developed this reopening plan. I continue to appreciate your support. I know the past 2 years have been very difficult, but the partnerships between the district and the community have been very strong, and I really do appreciate that. So if you don't have any questions, I appreciate your time, but I certainly will stay on and answer as many questions as I can, either through unmuting or in the chat. A question in the chat: what's the earliest a student can be brought to school? We will open the doors at 7:45 a.m. So if a student can be dropped off between 7:45 and 8 a.m. in our bus circle, and then we'll bring those students into the building, and then at 8 o'clock they'll transition to their homeroom period. So 7:45 a.m. would be the earliest. So a question: do you anticipate transition of the mask use from at all times just when removing or in indoor public settings to no mask, or is it day-by-day approach? It's a great question. As of this point, it's once you're inside, masks are required, regardless of social distancing and vaccination status. I'm certainly hopeful that as we progress, we would be able to modify that and move towards a mask when moving policy, but that would be based on the recommendations from our medical advisors. So at this point, we're just waiting for additional guidance to possibly make that determination.
Yeah, I would say the two biggest factors that are going to impact mask use throughout the year, per our public health partners, is the rate of transmission in the community. So the number of cases in our area, as well as the rate of vaccination of eligible people in our area. Those will be two factors that public health will consider as we move through the year.
Thank you, Nurse Arlen. A question was requirements for the type of mask. So the type of the mask requirements will remain the same as what they were last year. And Nurse Arlen, please correct me if I'm wrong. It had to be a 2-ply mask.
Yes, the Department of Health last spring discouraged the use of single layer, some of the single layer like masks that would be like all the way around the neck and up over the face. I have discouraged people from using those just for the fact that it makes your entire head hot, not just, you don't have fabric just over your face. You have it wrapping around your neck and also around the back of your head to keep it on. So if you can find some type of a mask that either ties in the back, medical masks are not crazy expensive, even the kid size ones like on Amazon or whatever right now. So paper masks, fabric masks that are 2 layers.
And we do have tanager masks remaining. So on September 1st, we are doing a meet and greet that students and their families can come to the district, check out their classroom, practice their locker. So we will have tanager masks available at that time. And I have placed an order for additional masks that I'm hoping will be in by that time too. So if a student needs a mask, if you don't have one at home, we absolutely will provide masks for students. And
we also certainly encourage families to, help their students remember to grab a clean mask in the morning, having an extra mask in the backpack if theirs gets soiled. And certainly we will have extras available if that's needed during the school day as well.
So again, I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate your support. At this point, I'm still going to stay on. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute or to type them in the chat. But just so that I don't forget, I am going to hit the stop recording button so that we do have an end to the video when we publish. But I will certainly stay on and answer any questions.